All right, well, good day, everybody. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for coming along and donating your valuable time to listen to me talk about veterans, their future, and railroads. I'm a retired naval officer, and I know some of the troops out there are going to go, oh boy, an officer. Well, I've also what they call in the Navy a Mustang, which means I'm also prior enlisted. So one of the things I want our veterans to understand is I've been on both sides. So I understand not only what it's like to be an enlisted member of the armed services, but also an officer. And I also want the veterans to understand that I've been in your shoes also when you're at the point of getting out of the service. Okay, now what do I do? I went through such old books as, what color is your parachute? And, got the kumbaya about, okay, find something you really love. And I kind of followed that. And I was trying to figure out, do I want to go back and get more education or what do I want to do? And as a result of me trying to follow my passion, I discovered that, I've always liked trains. And as such, I'm going to help maybe some of the veterans out there. And I also want to say thank you. I think about it, all out there who are supporting the veterans. And I appreciate all of you who are doing that too, as well as those that support the veterans, like the spouses, the family members, and those folks too. So thank you for all those folks that are doing that too. So anyway, I found my passion out there, and it was trains. And so I want to kind of go through and use that as a venue to talk to veterans about how, you may want to consider an occupation in railroading, which is one of those, what I call an unseen employer. A lot of people don't understand about what trains do, what they haul, and then how it applies to just about everything that you teach here at Truckee Meadows Community College. And so I took that and basically went through that, and I discovered exactly what the railroads can do for each topic area. So with that, I'm going to try to share my screen here correctly. Like I was telling Nadine, I have an iPhone 4 and I'm a boomer, which those are two critical things that screw with technology. So share sound, optimize video clip looks like we're good there. And so we will share my PowerPoint. Hopefully it comes up. How are we looking? Can everybody see that? Okay. So we're going to talk about veterans and, they're getting out of service and then how their future and in fact, how trains or railroads, maybe one occupation they want to consider as it relates to college and those things that are coming up in the future once they get out of the military. And please work with me here. There we go. So a little bit of history about how I became involved in why I'm here is that one of my things I also did was I created through the Washoe County Sheriff's Office a small group called the Rail Auxiliary Team, which is a trained group that goes out and looks at the railroad tracks to keep people safe around railroad operations and all that stuff there just to help the sheriff out and be a force multiplier for the sheriff. And so, one of our team members actually was here at the Veterans Upward Bound, and he said, hey, this would be kind of interesting to spread the word about what you're doing up there and how it relates to some of the things we do for veterans. And so I kind of went over that and I will say pitched this to the group, and they said, okay, let's try this and see what happens in some of these areas over here we discussed about, how it affects the program and some of our partners too, like the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, the Nevada Department of Transportation, the railroads, and the Office of Suicide Prevention. And then I focused on, what are some of the applicable classes that we could apply or the railroads could apply and use the Truckee Meadows Community College. And as I started out this presentation, just about, I would say, majority of the classes that is offered at Truckee Meadows Community College can be applicable to a railroad career. Everything from aviation to education to occupational safety and health, and even information technology. So anyway, I go through the classes and talk about just about everything we teach in Truckee Meadows Community College is applicable to a railroad career. So getting with that, in talking to the veterans, one of the decisions I had to go through was, okay, I'm getting out of the military. Do I want to continue getting a higher education or not? Or what do I want to do? Do I just want to go ahead and apply what I've learned in the military and hopefully I get a job that way? Or do I want to go get a higher education, such as a master's degree or a doctor's degree? So I know a lot of the veterans here are still working on their bachelor's, which is cool. Again, that's what I did when I was enlisted. I got my bachelor's degree, which allowed me to become an officer. So one of the things that you want to know is that Class 1 railroads, or the major railroads in the United States, are looking for college interns, and they are looking for your next generation to keep the railroads occupied and moving forward. And a lot of people think the railroads are just a dying dinosaur. They are not. Just about everything that you have in your house has at one point been touched by the railroads. That includes your TV sets, your telephones, your car, the bread that you eat. At one point, that was transported by the railroads, and the railroads used an extreme amount of technology and all sorts of other educational items to keep your trains moving and keep freight and keep your households in the supply that they need. So one of the questions that you're going to have to ask yourself is, do you want to continue on with your college education or go to trade school? So I was looking around and I found out that do college graduates actually earn more as opposed to a trade school? And the answer appears to be yes, on average about $50,000 more a year. That said, some people like working with their hands too. So maybe that $50,000 a year is not what they want to do. So the railroads also offer trade school type of support. For instance, if you want to be a welder, you can earn an average hourly wage of about $28, $29 per hour. Or if you're into electronics or electricity, you can be a signal person, again, using that same thing is about $29 or $30 per hour. However, if you decide to go on, continue on with your college education, the railroads, again, like to have interns come in there, and they will, in fact, literally pay for you being an intern while you're going to college too. Now, is that available here in the Truckee Meadows? No. However, one of the things that you could do is just go through, get your basic college and then apply for a railroad job later down the road here. For instance, one of the things we're looking at here is a year-round intern. If you're into media or social media, again, they're looking for an intern over there in Omaha, Nebraska. So these type of opportunities are well available in the railroad career if you want to be interested in that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about that as we go through this presentation. So again, if you're interested to continue on and doing some more with your education, maybe in electronics or technology, like information technology, the railroad is in fact looking for those type of people. So you can be a senior project engineer. Again, that's probably in Omaha, Nebraska. If you're into finance or money matters, again, they're looking for individuals over there. The interesting thing I found was that some of the money that you can make working for the railroads. If you look to your right, and it says Information Assurance Unix Security Engineer. Again, this is a very highly educational field, but if you're really good at your field, you can make up to $248,000 a year, which is a nice chunk of change working for the railroad. And I was kind of shocked when I saw the amount of money that they could actually make being a computer engineer over for the railroad. So these are some of the things that you may want to consider as you're looking at your choices to, be a laborer or work with your hands or continue on with your college education. So let's cross our fingers and hope this works. So why work for the railroad?
My name is Jeff McDonald. I work for BNSF. I'm a utility man here in Wenatchee, Washington, and I work down in the Upper Yard. I was hired out in December 2010. I'm trained as a conductor, brakeman, and a switchman. I'm a utility employee, and I'm working graveyard shift or third shift from 10:30 at night to 6:30 in the morning.
Line them out of track 7 and through track 12.
I'm getting with the yard master on what trains I have to assist, how far they are out, so I know I have enough time to get down to the yard and do some lining of switches for them. I assist the train crews as they're coming in. If they have a set out to do, set out meaning part of their train needs to stay here, I need to get this equipment squared away.
Set out that last car for you and rehang Fred, and away you go.
Need to check the utility rig. I'm doing inspections on that, taking end of train devices or Freds and making sure those are charged up. After 21 years in the Army and 3 tours to Iraq, 2 tours to Afghanistan, I decided to retire. I'm a retired first sergeant in E8. I applied for a job out in the field because that's what I've done in my career in the Army. Working in the harsh conditions, rain, snow, mud, sleet. The training program is a 15-week program that they put on for you, and they train you to be a conductor, switchman, and a brakeman. And that is on-the-job training. Obviously, it's at night, so you always have to watch out for any kind of hazards, any slipping hazards, any tripping hazards. You need to know how far away to be from the tracks when there's a train coming down and pulling into the yard, and that's all you can see is their headlights. I actually don't mind the night shift. I have 2 small children, so I can take them to school, and hang out with them during the day. We get to eat dinner together. Then they go to bed, then Daddy goes to work. I think the values that I've learned in the military absolutely come over to BNSF. Discipline, I think, is a very big part of the job here. You have to be 100% rules compliance 100% of the time, no questions about it. Well, some of the benefits for working for the railroad, you build your retirement from day one as soon as you get hired. You do have medical and you do have dental. In 5 or 10 years with BNSF, I see myself doing what I'm doing right now. It's what I like to do.
So that gives everybody an idea of one military professional's view of the railroad. And the railroad, as you mentioned before, is very rules compliant. And for those of us that have been in the military, that's kind of what we were taught while in the military is there's, you follow your orders and you carry out your orders to the best of your ability. And so the railroads are really appreciative of what the military offers them. And they are very military friendly. So again, getting back to the original premise here is, do you want to go to college or do you want to go to trade school? Again, in searching on this for a railroad job, I came across this on one of the blogs there. It's basically the individual says, yes, go to college. If you can't afford it, join the service, get your GI Bill. It's going to pay huge dividends. But the big thing that I got from this is, remember, there's a difference between a job and career. If you're interested in something like this and you enjoy doing something outdoors or working for the railroad, something that you've maybe never ever considered, again, find something that you truly like and you truly enjoy. And it won't be like you feel like a work a day and ever of your life. As I mentioned before, the railroads are very interested in getting college graduates. One of the things they like to do is take college interns while they're going to school. This is a prime example. This Max over here, the picture of him on your left-hand side, he took advantage of that. And he worked for the railroad for a little bit, and now he works as a train master in Danville, Kentucky for the Norfolk Southern, which obviously is kind of back East Coast there. But that's one of the ways that the railroads will actually, I guess, as I said here, teach people about what it's like to be a railroader, what it's like to be out there keeping trains moving on a daily basis. It's something that a lot of people don't understand, that the occupation there of how to keep America moving, and trains move a lot of goods and services to keep America moving strong. And it's something to consider that, as you're looking at your college career. The other thing you may want to consider is working on the passenger side, not only the freight side, but the passenger side. Amtrak is also, much like the Class 1 railroads or the major railroads, looking for college students that are willing to consider working for the passenger side of the railroads, which is the Amtrak, which takes people from point A to point B throughout the entire United States. They also have intern programs as well as management training programs. So maybe the freight railroads aren't your cup of tea, so to speak, but you can also work for the passenger railroads. And the one thing I want to make sure that everybody veteran understands that is that the railroads sincerely appreciate the sacrifices that the veterans have done. And I was talking to an individual the other day who was, again, a veteran who, retired, and he went out to the civilian world, and he says, it's totally different out there. It's kind of a dog-eat-dog world in the civilian world. And a lot of times he said, I miss the camaraderie that the military provided. And as you can see here, the railroads do, in fact, offer that camaraderie. So if you work for the railroads, that may not go away. And it's not going to be a dog-eat-dog world out there. As a matter of fact, they go so far as I saw in the picture here, is they actually paint their locomotives to show their appreciation for what some of the veterans have done for this country. So the secret to working for a railroad and for veterans is revealed. Basically, go out and do what you want to do. You can be a laborer, or you can work on a trade type level, or you can be a management type level. The railroad offer you anything that you want out there, and that is a secret. Just go out and basically you can get it. So how do you apply what you learned in the military to a railroad career? And there is this application that some railroads have out there. And you can see what you were on your left-hand side, your military experience, everything from combat arms to comms, law enforcement, supply, as it how it relates to the railroad. And I was talking to a dean about this as I plugged my career, which is intelligence, into this, and the computer chugged and plugged around there, and out popped the answer, and said that I could be a track laborer. And I kind of go, well, okay, that's probably not the right thing. So even if you pop in your military career here, a lot of times the civilian community doesn't really understand what we did in the military. So a lot of stuff just take with a grain of salt and you apply for the position that you really want. So what 5 railroad companies want to hire vets now? The answer to that is just every single one of the Class 1 railroads. That's Burlington Northern Santa Fe, Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, CSX, which is back on the East Coast, and Kansas City Southern. All the big railroads want to hire veterans now. Not only do the big railroads want to hire, but also the small regional railroads, as well as what we call short lines in the local area, are also looking for veterans to hire. So one of the other things that working for the railroad is completely different from working in the civilian world is that you have no Social Security. Your Social Security is covered by what they call the Railroad Retirement Act. And as you can look down here, the railroads took compared a Social Security retirement to a Railroad Retirement retirement. And as you can see, the Railroad Retirement Act is a lot better than the Social Security employment. For instance, 30 years for the railroad on monthly retirement, you get $3,645 as opposed to $1,460. Your spouse, again, a lot better, and surviving spouse, a lot better. On average, it works out better working for the railroad. It's just one of those things that the government did for the railroad to keep the economy moving way back in World War II in that neck of the woods. And so the railroad employees do not get Social Security, but they do get a railroad retirement, which is a little bit better than Social Security. So what are some of the applicable classes that TMCC offers that can be applied to the railroads? Again, one of the slides we first looked at, everything from aviation to emergency management to occupational safe and health and safety to supply chain management. So let's look at aviation. Now, I am a certified Part 107 drone pilot, and the use of drones is growing significantly on the railroads. In bridge inspections, such as we're looking in here, they're also using drones for other services on the railroads. So the railroads, if you're into aviation and you want to use your aviation, your dream job to be a pilot or whatever, you can certainly qualify as a Part 107 drone pilot and work for the railroad. And so not only are they doing bridge inspections, but they're also looking at securing tracks with drones. And here you can see that the Norfolk Southern Railroad is hiring a drone co-pilot And so, yep, if you want to do your aviation career and that's your dream job, you can certainly get an aviation job working for the railroad and make anywhere from 40K to 83K as a drone pilot. So again, aviation is certainly applicable to a railroad career. Criminal justice. If you want to be a cop for the railroad, yep, you can do that. And one of the other challenges the railroad has is much like, a normal company is people do in fact steal things from the railroad. Now the railroad is a certified law enforcement agency. They're just like a regular cop out there. They're just that their territory covers the railroad. And so if you're into criminal justice, again, a railroad career may be an option for you. You can be what they call a special agent. And your sole territory is working for the railroad. Here's one over in Mira Loma, California. Again, they're looking for somebody who's got law enforcement experience, a bachelor's degree, preferably 1 year in the railroad. And you get up to 80K at this location in Mira Loma, California. Again, if law enforcement and criminal justice is your cup of tea, you may want to consider working for the railroad and, again, going to school here at TMCC and getting that check in the block, and then think about working for the railroad. In education, this was kind of I'll say a bizarre one that I found across working for Norfolk Southern, but employee experience specialist. And basically what this individual does is he or she talks to a potential employee and finds out, what kind of opportunity, what kind of experience, and translate those opportunities into some actionable initiatives. And some of the things that are applied to the education is, again, communications and journalism. Those are some of the preferred majors that they're looking for in this particular job experience for Norfolk Southern. And then emergency management, homeland security, EMS, fire.
Today we're actually at the Security Emergency Response Training Center located in Pueblo, Colorado, and what we're doing today is training firefighters from throughout the United States in classroom as well as hands-on scenarios and what they may encounter during a crude oil emergency. Our focus here is not only the tactical training that they're receiving, but also building the relationships that with the railroad and the first responders that come to our training, so that in the unlikely event of an incident, that relationship has already been formed and there's more of a bond between the partners that would be involved in an incident, such as the simulated one behind me that you see today.
Well, there are 9 guys in our hazmat division. I'll bring this information back and share with these guys the techniques that we learned, the new toys we got to play with, and also bring it to my chief and let them know the effective means of foam fighting and how to deal with this crew law in case we ever come in contact with it.
There's a lot going on with crude rail right now, so it just gives me the awareness that there is a lot more out there, but also understanding that, tank cars are the strength that they have and actually the resources that we have. I had no idea that we were able to get all these people in, and it's not going to be it's all on me kind of job.
A lot of the responders that are coming are operations level responders or technician level. Most of them are not familiar with rail cars. They have not been trained on rail cars. To really distinctly tell what's the difference between, for say, a pressure container versus a general service car. So we go through the process of teaching them some of the characteristics of a general service or DOT 111 car that predominantly hauls flammable products.
One of the things that we're looking at in our area, they're actually going to build a new railroad bridge over the Mississippi River, which is going to create a lot of different jobs. There's going to be a lot more rail traffic coming through. So I think we're in the infant stages right now, sitting down with the rest of the community, emergency management. I think all these things that we're learning, we can take it back, get everybody together and come up with a nice plan in case something ever does happen.
If we develop an action plan for what could possibly happen, knowing what the products are, having more information, then we can pre-plan ahead and be flexible with getting people in, the UP people in, bringing in other people that we need. Then we'll have a better idea and be able to protect our citizens better.
I would encourage any first responder to reach out to us and inquire about attending one of these courses. They can do that simply by going to our website at www.up.com and enter in the search box Hazardous Materials Contacts. That will take you to a link that will give you the contact information for your local manager of hazardous materials, who can then arrange for you to attend this course.
Okay, so again, emergency management, homeland security, and that was obviously the fire side of the house, but also again, homeland security. Railroads do in fact haul hazmat, they haul military ammunition, and to be honest with you, sometimes those things could be prime target for people who want to do nefarious things to our country. And part of that, the railroad police officer is also involved with implementing the railroad security plan, the Homeland Security Plan. They do red teams, and if you're familiar with red teams, basically you go in and you try to bust into the railroad yard and see if somebody catches you. So the railroad police officers also do that kind of stuff. So they're involved in Homeland Security. In occupational safety and health, railroads are huge on safety and health in the environment. And they preach safety just about every day. Every railroader goes out there, they have to have a safety brief before they even begin to work on the railroad. So much like everything else we talked about here before and talking, there is again, just about every course that's offered here in Truckee Mills Community College has some applicable portion to the railroad career, even, believe it or not, even psychology and sociology. Going back to that employee experience specialist, again, they are looking for somebody who has got a degree in psychology to help them figure out, how to get the best out of people and working for Norfolk Southern. But unfortunately, one of the problems that the railroad has is suicide on the railroads. People take their lives on suicide. And so even here in Nevada, we've had several individuals in their life be a train. And so working with the Nevada Office of Suicide Prevention, we're trying to reduce that and prevent that out here. But the railroads are huge in trying to prevent anything like this to happen on the train tracks to get those people the correct help they need. And again, a degree in psychology or sociology would certainly be applicable to help the railroads deal with this problem that's a nationwide problem and suicide via train. So again, psychology, even though you wouldn't think it'd be anything to do with railroads, is definitely a career you might want to consider in the railroads to apply that. Supply chain, obviously trains move freight from point A to point B. So if you're in supply chain management, you want to do that. Again, they're looking for a bachelor's degree over there just to make sure their trains are moving correctly and accurately. And this is out of Elkhart, Indiana, to be a manager in corridor operations. And the big thing that a lot of people don't understand about railroads is they think that the railroads are just this old dinosaur out there, chugging along. They are not. They use GPS, they have satellite links, they have, as the picture up here on your upper right-hand corner, this is a dispatch center, probably out of Omaha, Nebraska, all controlled by computers. All of the trains out here in Nevada are controlled from Omaha. So comms is huge. They check trains via computer for any malfunctions. So computer technology is huge in the railroads. And as you saw before, if you have a degree in computer technology and you have experience, you can make upwards to $250,000 a year. Again, no small chunk of change. And so some of the things they're looking for here, laptop support, computer support, management information systems. So if you're into computers and you're considering a railroad career, and again, get your check in the block here at TMCC. And then again, if you're interested in railroads, this may be an occupation you may not even consider. And then lastly, some more other interesting jobs. If you're into international travel and international stuff, this is the Kansas City Southern. It runs trains from up north in Canada all the way down south to Mexico. And so here you have a director of international border operations that you could work for, Kansas City Southern, and dealing with the international trade aspects of railroad. They run trains like, say, most of your automobile parts, which are manufactured in Mexico, come up via train to the facilities up here in the United States to build your car, as well as some other goods that come from Mexico as well as Canada. And then, again, getting back to some more computer type stuff. Here's a program manager for some IT jobs in Burlington, Northern Santa Fe, and Fort Worth, Texas. Again, salary from $82,000 to $119,000 a year. Again, very lucrative if you want to work in the railroad industry doing some computer stuff. So how do you find out if you want to even consider working for the railroad? You just heard my presentation, gave you kind of a rough idea, but maybe you want to learn more. As I mentioned before, when I started out this presentation, that we have a group here in Washoe County under the Washoe County Sheriff's Office called the Rail Auxiliary Team. We take you through an 8-hour course of basic railroading. We take you out and we look you at and take you out the railroad infrastructure. You look at trains, you understand trains. We do monthly training. We do field exercises and community involvement. And that may be in a way that you can, increase your experience and increase your understanding of trains and whether or not you want to go ahead and consider a railroad career. Again, go to college, look at the railroad career. It may be one of those options that you want to do and take advantage of that also. So with that, here is my information. If you want to get a hold of me and ask me some more questions, I have my email addresses up there. We're on Facebook. So with that, I would like to say thank you. Again, thank you for taking your valuable time to listen to me talk about railroads, the Truckee Meadows Community College. And for those veterans out there making a determination on whether you want to continue with your college career, whether you want to go ahead and use a trade school type of thing. And again, I thank you for your time. And again, thank you for your service and your sacrifice.